Hello everyone! Welcome to Cricut 101. I'm Anna Rose. We're in the craft room today and we're going to teach you how to make square infusible ink coasters today. Now, if you are new to this series, this is Cricut 101 where we go very slowly and in depth through different processes of how to make with your Cricut. Today we're going to use the Cricut Joy, and we're going to show you how to make square infusible ink coasters. Now, how this series works is I'm gonna play a pre-recorded video and I'm gonna speak over the top of that video, detailing all of the steps that you need to go through in order to create these adorable coasters. So welcome, we're really excited to get started. We actually have a whole series of these on our blog and in the YouTube playlist here. So make sure to subscribe and click that notification button so when we make these videos, you'll be the first to know about them. This is the last video of our series. So thank you for joining us. And if you're new, make sure you check out from the beginning. We have unboxings, we have very easy project ideas and design space tips and tricks. So without further ado, let's go to the video and I'll speak over the top of it, but join us back here at the end because I'll come back and I'll answer all of your questions live. Okay, so these are the coasters that we're going to make today. These are square infusible ink coasters that my friend Chris made, and he made them for his kids so that they have a special coaster just for them to protect their coffee table. So let's start from the beginning. He's showing you right now all of the things you need to make these coasters. So you need a Cricut, you need some infusible ink, a roller, your computer, the coasters, the Cricut Easy Press. But first, let's start in Design Space. So click on New Project, then click on Insert Image. I love this about Design Space because there are hundreds of thousands of images to choose from. So he's going to search tree and scroll down. There's so many trees to choose from. So let's see which one he picks. Oh, okay, fun, a cute Christmas tree. And then he's gonna go back and probably search for one for his second child, palm tree, and start scrolling through. Now, he is looking for images that are one layer, which are really easy to cut and really easy to apply to the infusible ink coaster. So you'll see he selected and he inserted it onto his canvas. And now he's just going to resize these images. So measure your coaster and decide what size would be best for the image. He's just pulling the handle in the bottom right-hand corner to make the images bigger. See that? Okay, now he's going to change the color by going to the top and selecting that drop down. This is just for visibility, right? Because anything you put on the mat will cut. I'm going to pause this right here because I think this is an important screen to look at. When you use Cricut Joy, you can choose from 4 different options to cut without a mat, on a card mat, and then multiple ways. Since we are cutting infusible ink, he's going to click on a mat. Okay, let's keep going. Once he selects on a mat, he'll be able to visualize what his images are going to look like. But because we're using infusible ink, he's going to mirror both of his images. This makes more sense when it's a word, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but always click that mirror button if you're doing iron-on or infusible ink, just to get into the habit. Okay, it's connecting to his machine, and now he's going to search for the kind of material that he's using. So he went to Browse All Materials, and then he's looking for Infusible Ink Transfer Sheet. He clicks that, and then the next step is the software will tell you to load your mat and to make sure you have the right blade installed. We're going to kind of switch back and forth from the Design Space screen and then in real life watching him cut. But with the Cricut Joy, it will prompt you to load the mat and then it will start cutting. But before we do that, let's go to this screen where he's going to show you how to prep your mat. So he's cutting open his infusible ink box and taking everything out of the black package. So inside you'll have the sheets of Infusible ink, and you'll also have 2 pieces of butcher paper. Oh, Chris is so smart. He always measures his material before he puts it on the mat so that he doesn't waste anything and he can save his material for future projects. So see, he is looking at his image and he's trimming down his Infusible ink before he sticks it to the mat so that he can save that entire piece for later. He's going to do the same thing with the yellow color. He's pulling it out of the box, and we give you 2 pieces of butcher paper for, 1 piece of butcher paper for every piece of Infusible ink that's in the package. So since this is a 1-color package, he'll have 2 sheets of Infusible ink and 2 sheets of butcher paper. The butcher paper will be important later, so make sure you keep that, put it aside. Okay, he's doing the same thing. He's going to measure on his mat before he takes off the liner to make sure that he can save all of that Infusible ink for another project. Make sure to leave your questions in the chat, in the live chat, and we'll answer them while we're going through, and we'll also have time at the end to answer any questions you may have. Okay, so he's just cleaning up his workspace, and now he'll actually remove the liner from his mat and then stick his pieces onto the mat. That liner that goes on your mat, it's to protect the surface so that you can use your mat over and over and over again. So keep that liner handy, it is important. So he removed the liner, and now he's going to stick his green Infusible ink with the color side up onto the mat, and then smooth it down with the brayer. You'll see he's now loaded the mat into his Cricut Joy, and this is the fun part. You get to watch the Joy cut the image. With Cricut Joy, there's no buttons on the machine, so he indicated in the software that he was ready to cut by pressing the cut button on the screen. So here's Cricut Joy working its magic, cutting out his Christmas tree design. Now, if this was a word, you would be able to see why we mirrored it, because it would cut it backwards. Because you do the color side up, the image has to be backwards. Okay, it went back to the software so that you can see what it looks like as the machine is cutting. It gives you sort of an indicator of how much longer you have to wait for it to cut. And then once it's done cutting, it will prompt you to unload the mat. And you already saw that on the other screen. This section is super helpful, I think, because it kind of gives you a gauge of how much time you have. Okay, now that he's cut his image, he's going to remove it from the mat. Notice that he is pulling his mat away from the material rather than the material away from the mat. This will make sure that your material doesn't curl, because you don't want it to curl. Okay, he's putting his yellow sheet, yellowish orange, onto the mat, lining it up with the top left corner, and then he'll use his brayer to smooth out all of those bubbles. And this is important because you want the machine to have a flat cutting surface, so make sure that there's no bubbles before you go to cut. So in the software, it prompted him to load, but we're just seeing him do it in real life, as in real life as a video can get. And then we'll watch the machine cut out his palm tree. This has been sped up. Okay, again, he's removing his mat from his material, and then he's putting his cover back on his mat. Good job, Chris. Oh, this is popped back to the software just so that you can see. It's the same process as we did with the Christmas tree. It'll prompt you to load the mat, and then it'll give you a progress wheel showing you how far it is in cutting. And then as soon as it's done cutting, it will prompt you to unload the mat. Okay, so now let's get to the application part of the project, which is really the most fun. So he's taking his square Infusible ink coasters out of the package. He's removing the liner from on top. and then he'll prep it. So remember how I told you to keep your butcher paper and put it aside? This is the step when you will need that. So he's making 2 for his 2 children. And then now he's going to make sure his image fits, kind of place it. You want to make sure that you spend time and care at this step, making sure your image fits on the surface as much as possible, because once it's applied, and you won't be able to go back. So take time and care at this step. Okay, he is weeding his image. We use this word weeding to indicate the process of removing the excess material from around the image that is cut. So see, he's carefully peeling this away. This is just paper on a liner, so be careful as you're removing it because you can rip the paper. Now he's going to bend it a little bit and then pop out the inside pieces of his Christmas tree. He's pulling out all of the little pieces, and we recommend doing this by hand. You can use what we call a weeding tool, which has a sharp tip at the end to remove the pieces. But for infusible ink, if you scratch the surface where the color is, that will also remove the color that will be applied to your base. So using your fingers is totally fine and recommended for this type of project. And once you get going, this is actually pretty fun because as you bend the infusible ink, the little pieces just pop out. It's kind of therapeutic. You'll hear people say that they think that weeding is also therapy. Okay, now he's back to his coaster. He's going to look at the placement, decide if this is really what he wants to do, and then he'll prep the surface. So you see how he has put the color side down onto the coaster. If he had words, the words would now be facing you correctly. You'd be able to read them. With a tree, it isn't as apparent why you need to mirror your image, but always mirror. Now he's going to weed his other image, his palm tree image. Notice he's just grabbing a corner and he's peeling the infusible ink away very carefully with his fingers. Again, with infusible ink, it's not like iron-on. You can actually bend and you'll hear a little bit of a crack as your infusible ink is coming up off the surface, and that will help you pull the infusible ink paper away from the liner. He's being very careful to make sure that he doesn't tear his image because it is paper after all, and so it can tear. But he's doing a great job. He's pulling that away and getting that little tiny edge without tearing it. Good job, Chris. Again, you could use a weeding tool if you have super intricate insides, but you have to be very careful. So that's why he's decided to use his fingers. Okay, there you go. There is his finished image. And again, he's going to look at his coaster, make sure that that's the correct size, which he pre-measured, so it should be, but he wants to make sure. Okay, he is going to search for the heat guide. So he searches Cricut Heat Guide, and there it is. This is such a great tool because all you do is select your Easy Press, select your material, select the base that you are using for your project, and then click Apply, and we tell you everything you need to do. The temperature of the Easy Press, the supplies you need, how to prep your surface, and how to apply it. This Cricut Easy Press guide is so cool. It's even showing you the stack of what you need there. So now we're going to show you the stack. You'll see he has an Easy Press mat and a piece of paper, and then he puts his coaster on top of that paper. This is important to protect your Easy Press mat as well as your coaster. He's aligning his tree. And again, remember I said take care at this part to make sure that your design is exactly where you want it to be. Because unlike vinyl, which you could remove later if you don't really like the placement of it, once you heat up this infusible ink, it is now transferred onto your base. So he set his Easy Press already to 400 degrees, And now it is counting down the time that was indicated in the heat guide. So make sure you have that heat guide handy because it is super helpful for this step. You don't have to guess at all. We've taken all the guesswork out of it. Notice that he put his butcher paper over the top of his coaster. This again is protecting your coaster and it's protecting your easy press. Once the time's up, he'll remove his easy press. It will be very hot, so be careful. Please be careful at this step. Oh, it's kind of pulled up a little bit so you can get a sneak peek of the color that has transferred. You can see that the tree looks quite lovely, but it's still a little hot. Okay, so he's being careful as he pulls that image away. And ta-da, there it is. Now he has a custom coaster for one of his children because with kids being home all day, every day nowadays, we have to protect our surfaces. And we definitely don't want our kids fighting over who gets what coaster. So personalizing your coasters is a fun thing to do. Now he's letting it cool off here before we move on because, like I said, it will get very, very toasty. Yeah, it looks beautiful. So now let's do the second coaster, the palm tree coaster. So same steps, right? We have our easy press mat, we have the paper. He's gonna wipe off the surface of his coaster with a lint-free cloth, and then he's going to put his design color face down onto the coaster. And he's, again, taking great care to align it exactly how he wants it so that when it transfers exactly. Okay, he's aligning it, and we made the backer clear on the Infusible ink for this very purpose, so that you can clearly see where your image is going to sit. He's going to cover it with butcher paper, and then put his easy press on top. And then the countdown. Again, the Cricut Heat Guide is one of our favorite things. So you can either Google Cricut Heat Guide or just go to cricut.com/heat guide. And it will take all the guesswork out of any of your Infusible ink or iron-on projects, which I really love that they have put both of those materials on there. He's just putting light pressure. He's not putting a lot of pressure here. You'll notice he's just really holding it in place. He'll remove it and then remove the butcher paper. But again, it's been at 400 degrees for a full minute. So be careful as you remove that butcher paper, and especially as you touch the coaster underneath. This one, we're not getting quite the sneak peek that we did with the evergreen tree, but you can kind of see that the yellow has transferred. So he's going to wait till it's properly cooled down before he touches it. Now, if you're impatient like me and you want to see the finished project right away, you could use tongs or tweezers or something like that to remove the Infusible ink and liner so that you can get instant gratification, which is more along the lines of my crafting. I want to see exactly what I made. Okay, he's making sure it's cool enough, and the reveal, look at that. Lovely. This is what I love about Infusible ink. You can make professional projects from home quite easily.